Now back to live coverage on the CRN Sports Network.
Looking for a life insurance company that specializes in what you actually need? Protection. Call Danny today with Symmetry Financial. Danny is certified in all 50 states, which means Symmetry Financial is not limited and has over 30 companies to choose from. Symmetry Financial has proved time and time again that their options and pricing is just better than the rest. Give Danny a call today at 828-994-1681 to see how Symmetry Financial can make life simple. This is CRN, the Community Radio Network, the voice of the community, the voice of anything sports, and proud to be the voice of the Comets. Follow us at crnsports.org. Now let's get back to the broadcast coverage on CRN.
Now back to live coverage on the CRN Sports Network.
This episode is an exclusive production solely for the private, non-commercial use of our listening audience. Any publication, reproduction, transmission of the accounts without the express written consent or permission is restricted and prohibited. To hear this replay or other previous podcasts, download on iHeartRadio, iTunes Radio, and TuneIn. As always, this show is for you. Thank you for listening.
Here we go again. Into the month of April now. April 7th. Easter week, as a matter of fact. Happy Easter to you and all of yours. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Sports Power Hour on the CRN Sports Network podcast series. This is episode number 3. I'm Wesley Outland. Hope everybody's doing well. Bruce Barrett in the house as well, my co-host. Bruce, how you doing in Micro, North Kakalaki today, my friend?
Well, we're doing well. I don't gotta just centered here at the house, as you know, the governor's order, and of course the president, he's kind of advised us on to do that, and we're doing just that. We're kind of just chilling here at the house.
Yeah, for sure. We welcome everybody, one and all, to the Sports Power Hour. He's Bruce. I'm Wesley. We are set to go here. We've got a great show for you, as always, for the Sports Power Hour. We recap everything from the weekend sports. But the honest thing is, there ain't nothing really going on in sports. So we talk about the upcoming things that are happening in sports. And again, as it stands, we are still awaiting to see what the peak spiking down will do with this the pandemic of COVID-19 or coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, or the Chinese virus, as Donald Trump calls it, which I love when he says it. But suffice to say, Bruce Barrett, everybody is ready to get back out and just enjoy sports again, whether it's stick and ball sports, whether it's NASCAR racing, grassroots short track racing, and we'll talk about that on Red Clay Life or Full Throttle on Wednesday and Thursday, or just maybe even just going to see a baseball game or going to just be able to enjoy life, going outside to enjoy life. A lot of people are looking forward to it again, for sure.
Well, absolutely. You never realize how much you miss something when you don't have it anymore. It's just it's Saturdays and Sundays. We'd sit back, we watch ball games, and you get excited about it. And then really, you're sitting there Saturday and Sunday. I will say that some of the networks have been putting on some really good games that has been played in the past.
Right.
But you kind of miss that level. Oh man, what's going to happen next? Because you know what's coming. But I think we're going to be seeing sports here, and around May. I'm hopeful for somewhere around.
I'm thinking May.
I'm thinking
May.
That.
I really am. I'm thinking May. So let's go from here, and then we'll go from for the next hour. Again, we have a great show lined up for you on the Sports Power Hour, and tonight's guest is going to be Paul Gaffney of the Harlem Globetrotters. He is going to be joining us to talk about his basketball career and how he's coping with COVID-19 and his, being a Harlem Globetrotter. I mean, I remember as a kid, there was the NBA teams, but then there was the Harlem Globetrotters. And they were like the creme de la creme, so to speak, that, they go around and they entertain the crowds and they do all of these crazy antics with playing, with the basketballs and with the players and doing all of the crazy high flying and looping and swooping the ball. And I always said that's so much differently than watching a actual basketball game. So looking forward to getting inside the world of the Harlem Globetrotters with Paul Gaffney here coming up at 7:20.
Well, the Globetrotters, I'll tell you this. I was watching videos of them. That weave that they did, they would do it in the front court, and they'd do it towards the side and move it around. And you talk about timing. It's just unbelievable to sit there and watch. And then they would get that weave to where it would get even tighter and tighter. I mean, it takes a lot of skill, and some of the best slam dunks I've ever seen in the world came from the Harlem Globetrotters.
So listen, coming up 7:20, Paul Gaffney from Tennessee will talk basketball. Former Harlem Globetrotter. We'll talk about how he's coping with everything with the coronavirus pandemic that continues to still plague our nation as it's close to almost being 1 month. Everything kind of started on March the 10th, March 11th, and we're coming down to the completion of the first month of all of this going on. So, looking like what you talked about, you said it looks like May. May looks like the return of sports. It looks like talking with all the powers that be that I've spoken with on numerous occasions with so many things that I'm involved with, Bruce Barrett. It's looking like possibly May, mid-May, is looking to be hopefully the uplifting, so to speak, of things coming out of submission, lockdown, and trying to get things back going again, whether it just be controlled practices or games without fans in the stands. I do know there's been a remedy that has been made by the MLB, the Major League Baseball Players Association have said that they've reached a possibility of an agreement to have spring training and the beginning of season baseball be at baseball parks in Arizona, or at one baseball park in Arizona, and not have fans in the stands. But my thing is this, Bruce, that's going to really be, in my opinion, especially after we're coming out of the gate with not even a month to play now for MLB, that's got to be a major expense for not just MLB, but the players, the teams, their families, if they all pack up and move down to Arizona, to Minute Maid Park.
Yeah, well, they're wanting to get a season started. Of course, they need to get some training in, some spring ball, and a lot of that's pitching and things of that nature. They got to get those pitchers going and get those arms warmed up, I guess to say. So they're going to have to do that before they can start really playing a season. I think it's the pitching that is the really big deal there.
Well, again, we're definitely going to see where things go from here. And it's kind of a funny thing. I was talking to one of my friends at NASCAR Sunday, as a matter of fact, after all the podcasts and everything that we done last week for week 2 of CRN podcasts. I kind of went off the grid, so to speak, went off the radar for a couple of days and just needed some me time and a little rest and breaks from stuff on social media and everything else. And I was talking to a friend of mine, and then I was like, because President Trump had a meeting with all of the major sports promoters, owners of sanctioning bodies, whether it be NFL, MLB, NASCAR, you name it. And he was telling me, and Corey LaJoy hinted on this a little bit on Finish Line last week on our Thursday podcast series. And he hinted on the idea of the possibility of starting back on Memorial Day at Charlotte. And Bruce, I don't know if you've seen the schedule or not, or what the projected schedule is for NASCAR, but they're looking at a 36-race schedule with the completion already of 5. So that means there's 31 races remaining on the year. And they're looking at possibly restarting at Charlotte for the Coca-Cola 600. Now, will it be an opportunity for fans to see it live in the stands? Hopefully. I do know that there's been talks with people at Charlotte, Bruce Barrett, of cordoning off seats, separating, making it mandatory that you separate 2 seats amongst each person sitting in the stands. And they're trying, listen, you got to give them props, Bruce. They're doing every damn thing that they can think of in their head to find some type of a remedy to make it where fans are still allowed to be a part of sports. If they cut the grandstand seating back by 2, and then you put, okay, so you sit here, we're going to put 2 seats between us, Bruce Barrett, then we're going to put Dolly where you're at, and then I'll be 2 seats down. Now, yes, I know that that's taking up space, but ain't that better than not being able to see the race?
Well, absolutely. I would be all, for that. If it's safe to do that. And I think that is the big deal right now is the safety of the fan, the teams. You think about the infield and stuff like that. You know how a lot of times they have people that's in the infield and everything, and they're watching the people work in garages and stuff. They just want to make sure it's a safe environment. And I totally understand that. I've also heard that the PGA Tour is looking at cranking back up in some fashion, possibly next month, and that would be good to see.
Yes.
The last PGA Tour event was back in my hometown there near Jacksonville when that was in Sawgrass. And, of course, it was a Players' Championship, and they only got 1 round in, so it would be good to see, that sport come back and see those guys start gripping it and ripping it, as we say.
And, Bruce, I do know that the Masters, I was just, this is Masters week. Last night would have been one shining moment for an NCAA men and women's team. They would have decided the national champion for NCAA basketball last night. This week would be Masters week down in Augusta, Georgia, getting ready for the Augusta National, the Masters. That is the Daytona 500 of golf, if you will. The race, the tournament for the green jacket. That has been postponed to November. They have moved that to November. The Kentucky Derby has been moved to September. You have
September.
Do what?
September.
Yes, to September. The Indianapolis 500. And here's my thing, Bruce. As again, coming up at 7:20, we're going to have Paul Gaffney of the Harlem Globetrotters joining us on the Sports Power Hour. But we've seen. Also, where, my Indianapolis 500, the greatest spectacle in racing. And by the way, in the next week or two, we are going to have Mark James of the IndyCar Radio Network, a good friend of mine from Indianapolis, Indiana. He'll be joining us to talk about IndyCar racing and where IndyCar stands and so much more on our motorsports podcast. But Bruce, I mean, it's one of those deals where, like, did Indianapolis maybe jump the gun a little too early? Because I have to agree with not what Donald Trump says, but what Mike Pence says. This pandemic has its highs and it has its lows, and it seems like we're going above the curve now, as everybody says in the medical industry. We've spiked. We're in this spike level now, and then we're going to go above the curve. And when we go above the curve, we're going to go down. Now,